All right, here's the next ramp tutorial. So this is going to use a slightly different technique. Instead of curve deform, we're going to create a radial array using an object offset with an empty. But before we can do any of that, you need to install some add-ons. So you're going to want source ops. You're going to want source. Okay, I'm searching in the wrong bar. Source IO. So what you do here is you go to the GitHub page. You go clone or download zip. And then in Blender, I'll show you in a second how you do the same thing for source IO. You're going to need that one as well. Another add-on you're going to need is UV squares. There it is. So this add-on will be important for making the UVs not suck terribly. Right, so download all those. And then, save them to a location where you can find them. Excuse me. Don't worry, I don't have the virus as far as I'm aware. And go to your preferences in Blender, add-ons, install, and then browse to a zip and click install add-on. Do not unzip the zips. They need to be zipped. And then you choose the zip and click install, and that's how it works. And then it will appear here because it will search it for you, basically, and then it'll be here, not enabled, and then you click the checkbox to enable it. And that's what's up. So I'm going to save my file. Sponsored by PowerSave. It's free. Go get it. But so I'll call this like ramp tutorial. So let's get to work. So first we need a ramp profile. I'm gonna move this guy up by 1 and apply that with Control A and then pressing A to apply all transforms. I'll just show shortcuts. I don't have it installed. Oh no. One moment. Install add-ons. Screencast keys. Did it work? Oh, it did. Cool. And then screencast keys enable. There we go. And then probably gonna want to make it a lot bigger. Yep. Okay. So sorry for the interruptions, but now you can see my shortcuts. You're welcome. So I go into edit mode on this cube. I pick these edges and I scale them towards each other on the y-axis. The x-axis. Let's do the x-axis. So that's looking mighty fine to me. I'm also going to select this face and move it down, which if you need to learn the bare basics of Blender, I might not be the ideal person to teach you because I've been using it for a while and I know all the shortcuts. I'm going to extrude this down and I'm going to scale everything down on the Y to get a good segment going. This can be a little thinner. This is still over 45 degrees. Yeah, looks good to me. So you can, use a little more precision in this, but it's not necessary. Next, you're going to want to add a modifier array, turn off relative object, and instead, well, actually, use one relative offset here, but then also use object offset with an empty. Let's use a sphere empty. And let's pick it. Now when I rotate this guy, let's see here. I'm gonna rotate this, say, 5 degrees, minus 5 degrees. And I'm gonna move it like there. So you're gonna want these points to overlap just like the wooden hammer. Don't worry about them matching perfectly. Like if you zoom as far in as you can and place them like this, that's accurate enough. Don't worry about it. And then I can simply increase the amount on the array and get more pieces. And when you try to move the ramp, you get this issue. Oh yeah, don't make ramps that go in this direction. That's gonna cause issues. But anyway, I'm just gonna select this guy, then this guy, Control P object, and then I'll hide this empty. So now I can actually move it without it breaking. So smooth shade it, and you might think, wow, this looks horrible. It's supposed to look horrible. That's how collision in source looks in Blender, because it needs to be smooth shaded. So there's a collision. Call this guy call for collision or whatever. Make a new collection, call it ref. Duplicate this into the reference collection and hide that guy for a second. Go in here, delete these inside faces. We won't be needing these. And turn on merge with first last, why not? And drag that distance way up. That seems to be favoring that way. I'd prefer if it was in the middle. I have a better idea. Don't use merge. Instead, if you're in Blender 2.82 or above, which you really should be by now, use a weld modifier. And with the weld modifier, it actually merges in the center. So there you go. That's much better. Shift Z to get out of there. Now, this guy, you'll want to use auto smooth. Do not use auto smooth on the collision, but do use it here. So normals, take auto smooth. 30 degrees looks fine to me. There you go, good shading. So now, I'm going to make an extra collection. Call it Yeet. And I'm gonna duplicate my guy, my live thing, and put it in here. And just not touch it. And then here, I'm going to say Control A, Visual Geometry to Mesh, to apply all the modifiers. So I'm going to fill in this face, join these points, and if I may, join these points. There we go. So far, so good. Now, you're gonna wanna select these faces and search for boundary loop. If it's not space for you to search operators, it's F3. So select boundary loop, because it's in some menu somewhere, but I always forget, so I just search for it. Right, and then I'm gonna wanna go Control E, mark seam. That will be important for unwrapping. And then also, I'm going to just add one of these down the middle, but dissolve this part, dissolve it on the top, won't be needing it there. So just a loop cut down the middle here, because that's another good spot for a seam, I think. And you might think, oh no, but this is an n-gon. It doesn't matter, it's flat, the edges are sharp. Honestly, this edge here isn't necessary either, but it might lead to slightly better shading if you do leave it, so I'm actually gonna leave it. No, it won't, because this is flat shaded, so you really don't need it. Okay, there we go. This is fine. Now, let's move your cursor till you see this little crosshair, and then you can drag. It's Shift F10 2 times to get to the UV editor, or just click it in here, third option. And then select everything, U, unwrap. So that looks pretty good to me, but this needs to be straightened. So I'm gonna click L to select linked, N to open this panel, and if you've enabled UV squares, oops, I didn't mean to unselect it, then you can do to grid by shape. And there you go. Now everything is straightened out. So we'll get back to the UVs later. I'm going to drag another view here, Shift F3 to get to the materials. And right, just to clarify this. Oh. Did I delete my empty? Sorry, I'm confused for a second. Where the hell is my empty? Must be somewhere. Oh, there you are. What collection is it in? whatever. I'm going to move it to the Yeet collection. I'm going to Alt-P clear parent, and I'm going to instead control click. It's shift click in the 3D view, but control click in here, in the outliner. Control P object, because I want the MT to be parented to the live version. Nothing ever works, does it? Jeez. Whatever, I'm not going to worry about it right now, but anyway, you need the live version for, well, you don't need it, but, oh, now it works. Ah, ta-da. Okay, so you keep this around because you can actually change it, and then you don't have to redo the whole ramp every time you want to make a change. You only have to redo adding the caps and UV unwrapping, which isn't as big of a deal. Let's see, how long have we been going? 10 minutes already, jeez, 11 almost. So if you have Source.io installed, you can now go File, Import, VTF. And then I'm going to browse to my game, which I've opened recently, so it's in the recent list. Going to go to Materials. Going to search up here, Models. Oh, right, the VTF isn't stored in there, my bad. Just Materials there, and just grab a VTF. So I'll just grab the diffuse. Don't really need the other ones because you're only just using it to look at your unwrap. So I connect that to the base color here. And now when I go in look dev mode, material, or is it renamed to material preview mode, then you can see how your unwrap is going to look in game. Now in edit mode with everything selected, we can just scale it up until the scale looks good. And it does, and there we go. So let's see about putting this in game. Look at the collision. The collision does not need the material, so I'm actually going to go to the materials tab here and just remove that entirely. See, the modifiers are still live, are they? Yes, they are. Isn't that nice? Oops. 14, so they match. You could actually grab this, or like right click on this value and say copy as new driver, and then go to this reference here and say base driver. And now you can't change this one anymore, but when you change this one, they'll change together. Pro tip, drivers exist and are useful. So anyway, get back to the reference. Don't worry about disabling collections. I've made it in source up so that it doesn't crash because it always links it to the scene collection during export so that it's visible to the code. Don't worry about it. So that's cool. Everything is as it should be. Let's put it in the game. So I go to the source ops tab. I add a game with the plus button. I browse to my game's gameinfo.txt. So Steam apps, column, momentum, on momentum, gameinfo.txt. That's good. I'm going to remove this one because I already had my own game set up. Then I'm going to add a model. The display name for everything doesn't do anything. I just have it there for organizational purposes. Consistency, so that they all have it, you know. Just call this ramp, remap, apparently. So, example, ramp, tutorial 420, because it's the 4th of 20. The 20th of the 4th month right now in here. Pick the reference, pick the collision collection. This is a static prop because there's no animations. There's no glass-like material, so I don't need to worry about that. This looks like wood to me, so I'm going to pick wood for the surface property. Scale, that's important. So this thing, right, the default cube is 2 hammer units in each direction. So this is a very, very small ramp. I'm going to scale it up, say, 384 times so that it's a 768 unit wide ramp. and I'll do. And for material folders, oh, and materials, speaking of, I should rename this material to Bonjela wood, because that's just what the VMT is called. So you need the name of the VMT here, and then as a material folder, you have to model / Bonjela wood. The folder where this VMT can be found relative to the materials folder. So materials / model / Bonjela wood / Bonjela wood.vmt means the folder path should be model / Bonjela wood, and the material name should be Bonjela wood. I hope that makes sense. I certainly tried to explain it. Yes. I'll look at my timeline for a second. 30 frames is when it ends. So the default idle animation for this thing is going to be 30 frames long, kind of an oversight by me. You can either, you know, set your scene to be only 1 frame long, so start 1 and 2, or you can, but I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a static prop anyway, right? But, or you can add an idle sequence, which, you know, start frame 1 and frame 2 should do it. Or should it be start frame 1 and frame 1? I don't know. Let's find out what happens. And it should loop, and maybe it should snap. I don't know. Events, none. It's just a static ramp. Don't want to overcomplicate things too much for this video. SMD, QC, MDL, HLMV, and there it is. So the material's missing. I must have messed something up, but I mean, you can it's looking good, right? In it, I think it is. Turn on the physics model. See that the physics model, that's a bit hard to see. Let me turn on wireframe mode. Actually, it's still hard to see. Never mind then. Anyway, you can, with some use of looking really hard, you can see that the physics model overlaps itself the same way that it would in Hammer. This is important because the same rules apply, the exact same rules, for good collision of surf ramps in Hammer to good collision of surf ramps as models. So keep that in mind. That's why I don't recommend using curve to form anymore, because the results are just not safe. It's difficult to, I can't guarantee that it works. So that's why I prefer just using more hammer-friendly shapes such as these. Let's see why the material doesn't work. Did I make a typo or something? I'll just take a look in the folder. Materials, models, Bonjela wood. Ah, of course. So the folder name, I got it wrong. It's just Bonjela. So do the QC again and the MDL. Don't need to do the SMD again because the material folders aren't stored in the SMD, but in the QC and in the final compiled MDL. So there you go. There's how I recommend making model ramps nowadays, because it actually works and it doesn't bug in CSGO, CSS, etc. Unlike the previous technique where I used curve to form, which, you know, can work, but can also lead to issues, and just not a safe approach overall. I'm not gonna like build a whole test map to show you that it works, because I've already done that. Got him with a different ramp, but you'll have to take my word for it. It's a ramp that I created with the exact same technique. Is this gonna launch before I die of old age or what? Oh, it's coming. Why is it taking so long? There we go. Map, surf, test, ramps. Oh yeah. I bought Ossim, OSSIM on the Blender Market, which I haven't textured or unwrapped this thing, so don't mind it. But it's a monkey and some rocks, and it's like falling apart, and the simulation's super easy. SourceUp supports it. You don't need to like make keyframes or anything. I'm getting off topic, but like, It's super easy, kinda. It's easy to automate anyway, not easy to do by hand, but yeah. So you have your simulated objects, and then you have bones parented to those objects, and then you have duplicates of the original objects parented to those bones again. And you know, simple as that. So here's the model ramp, a different one that I made earlier today for testing. I feel like it's a bit slow. I don't know. It just feels off to me, but it doesn't bug. This is with ramp fix enabled, but if I go SV cheats 1, what was it? SV ramp fix 0. That's a momentum thing. Standalone surf game, by the way. So, but we're in closed alpha, so probably best to not check it out right now, because you'll just be told to wait until we're done, and there's no estimated time. Though you can build the game off source code if you're a developer. It's on GitHub and such. Now, one thing to note about model ramps and model collision in source is that curved bits aren't that bad. They're quite consistent. Straight bits, like long straight ramps, those actually are really buggy. So just make those out of brushes. At least a collision, just use a clip brush. Don't make them out of close the game now. Don't make it a model, because that will definitely bug. I don't know why, but that's just how source is. So I hope you found this helpful, and good day.